Welcome into the Legislative Lounge. We want to thank you guys for coming in and joining us for a third episode. Right off the bat, my name is Nathan Bigelow. I am your host, and then also my co-host Mike Bales here. We want to welcome you guys, but more so, I want to apologize. I wasn't here last week just because I had an unexpected family member pass away. They were pretty close, so I had to travel up to Michigan, where I'm originally from, and deal with that. But during the meantime, we had our good friend Madhu with us, so we want to thank him and then Radiodabang for helping fill us in on that. So thank you guys for filling in and having a great conversation. I was able to tune in a little bit while I was there, and I heard that Mike and Madhu had a great conversation. Mike, you want to just kind of recap it real quick?
Yeah, we covered a lot of different things. We covered conspiracy theories, and Madhu was an expert on that. I'm not big on the conspiracy theories because I just don't follow them, even though the majority of them turn out to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did touch a little bit on the legal principles surrounding birthright citizenship, which we'll get a little bit into today.
Right.
All in all, it was a great conversation. I mean, he is incredibly knowledgeable, and it was such a privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. And I sound very knowledgeable. Definitely saw that. But I mean, when it comes to everything this week, man, there has been a lot going on. I mean, it seems like we say that every week, though. I mean, even on our Monday night show, it's at 7 p.m. Central on YouTube, it just seems like there's just more and more nonsense that's going on in the world. The biggest thing going on right now is the whole, movement for Doge and everything that they're finding that's just wasteful spending. And, even doesn't matter what your political ideology is or, philosophies are, you would assume that everybody would want to make sure that the government is taking care of the funds that we entrust to them to facilitate everything that our government is a part of. But yet there seems to be this weird aura around a particular side of the aisle, I should say, that they're almost, it seems like they're afraid of what they're finding. They're afraid of what, Elon Musk is uncovering. They're afraid of what the Festivus report came out with from, Senator Rand Paul and everything of that nature. And it's like, why are you so scared?
Yeah, it's wild. We did touch on the Festivus report, a little bit of it, at least half of it last week with Madhu. And it's incredibly just unfortunate how much money has come to light just on that Festivus report. Not to mention Doge itself has only come through less than 1% of the entire federal budget. And they've found millions and billions of waste.
I think the last number that I saw, it was either 93 or 97 billion. And that was just in the things that's been released. There's a ton that hasn't yet been released.
And I think you and I were talking about it a little bit. And as far as like the testimony given the House committee regarding government fraud, waste, and abuse, and who their director was as far as providing oversight for that.
Right.
I found that incredibly interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, and you see the Democrats out here, Elizabeth Warren seems to be the one being the loudest mouth about all of this, along with, Bernie Sanders, and there's a couple of them that are really boisterous on it, and it just makes you question as to why are you being so boisterous of it. And they're trying to make this narrative of, oh, he's getting access to your personal information, so he could do whatever he wants with it. And it's like, no, he's not. You guys, along with me, and hopefully most of America, but it doesn't seem like it, knows that Elon Musk and his team is only giving read options only. They can only read the information. They have no option of interacting with the systems. They have no option of actually, guiding through it. And another thing, when it comes to Elon Musk himself, he has a top security clearance. He has had it for a number of years because he needed it to get the contracts that he has with NASA and the federal government. So this is an individual that has already went through security checks. He would lose basically all his funding if he ever had access to something that he didn't and did something with it. And then also the fact is he's now an official advisor in a capacity of being labeled as a federal employee. So even if he did have access to personal information, and the thing is if he used it, he could go to jail.
100%. I remember when I was in the military, the process of securing either a secret clearance or even a top secret clearance. If I remember correctly, a secret clearance is good for every 8 years. A top secret is good for 5 years. The depth of the two going through different lengths, and the background process extremely strenuous. So the fact that Elon Musk was able to get a top secret security clearance says everything you need to know. And the fact of the matter is Doge is a government agency, whereas some people are complaining or expressing discontent with Doge, a government agency, having access to the personal information, but they're not concerned with the IRS, which is a private organization, having access.
And the Federal Reserve, that's a whole nother topic. But, I mean, as of recently, it was just, on Wednesday or so, there was Doge officials that had actually entered the IRS building. So what we've all been waiting for is breaking down what the IRS is doing with our funds. I've heard that there were several of them, a couple hundred, if not 1,000 or so employees that are planning to be laid off, I guess you could say. And when you see things like that, it's like you have to ask the question, if the Doge employees, officials are going in there to audit them to see what they're actually up to, and then all of a sudden reports are coming out a day or so later that I think it was around 1,500 employees are on the brink of being laid off, is what the wording was. And it's like, that's a red flag to me. I don't know about you, Mike, but to me, that's a red flag, because it's like, if they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, right, and they were actually, allotting the money the way it should be going, then nobody should be in fear of their job.
Well, there's a lot of people like that, not just the IRS, but the federal government at large. A lot of people are either in fear of their job or tendering their resignation, especially like places like like you mentioned, the IRS, or where RFK was just confirmed at the Health and Human Services, the CDC, several different government agencies. I mean, it makes you wonder, like, what is really going on here? What am I actually paying for?
That's my thing, though. I mean, we can dive right into that. I mean, the whole thing around RFK and his confirmation, prior to him even getting past the cloture vote of the committee, there was thousands of employees of the HHS, from the NIH to the FDA to every part of the Health and Human Services sector, that were already on the brink of tendering the resignation. It's like, okay, that's a big red flag to me. Why? And it's not the fact that, a lot of people like to label RFK as a conspiracy theorist when it comes to things like vaccines and all this other nonsense that, they like to drum up. But in all reality, when you look at the actual studies, this is an area that I personally take a huge interest in, because that was something that I was going to school with, was for medicine. And then also, I've grown up around it my whole life, is medicine. My entire family is in the medical field in one way or another. So when I take a look at some of these studies that you could find on the NIH website saying, oh, we've looked into vaccines, we've done the research on them, and it's like, but have you, honestly? Like, when you look at those research, papers, there's a lot of contradictions. There's things that, it seems like you didn't really go in depth. You just put it on paper to seem like just so you had something, because there's a lot of independent studies outside of the NIH that do corroborate a lot of what RFK, and honestly millions of mothers and fathers out there that have problems with the ingredients and things of that nature that we're finding in medicine. I mean, one of the biggest issues is what are they putting in our bodies, not only from the food but the medicine aspect of it. Because when you take a look, and I challenge anybody on this, take a look at, the biggest thing is, the measles, mumps, and, that's one of the biggest things that people are pushing, because they're like, oh, now there's going to be huge outbreaks because RFK is going to outlaw, vaccines. It's like, first of all, no, he's not. He has no intention of doing that. What he wants to do is look into the safety in regards to the levels of toxicity, the levels of high metals in them and whatnot. And that's where the issue becomes. when you take a look back in the 1970s or 1980s, the level of individuals, like, we're just going to use autism because that's the one thing that a lot of people are talking about right now. I know it's a touchy subject to people, but that's what they're pushing because that's what he wants to take a look into. And honestly, I don't blame him. If you're looking at levels of 1 in 1,500, I believe is what it was back in the 1980s, to today when it's 1 in 24 children, that's a huge problem. Now, do I believe it's directly related just solely to vaccines? No, I think it's a case-by-case basis because when you understand the physiology of the body, and I'm sorry I'm ranting a little bit here, Mike. I'll let you jump in here in a moment. This is just my area, and you know it. But when you take a look at the physiology of a body and how it interacts with environmental, introductions of different elements, they can manifest, right? Like, for instance, my mother and my sister both had an autoimmune disease, and typically they pass down genetically through the female line. And a lot of times, there are some times where it might not manifest unless there's an environmental trigger, right? So these are the type of things that he wants to look into. It's like, if you have broken down DNA and you're getting these medications, these vaccines, and just medicine in general, and it's interacting with your body, and you have a trigger down the road, right, a few years or so, and it could be an environmental that came in and interacted with what was already being changed because of the medicines. See, people don't look into those things. And that's why they're having this big to-do about RFK wanting to look into it, because they don't understand this, because a lot of, unfortunately, the medical world is just as political as anything else. It's politically driven. It's driven by money.
100%. I mean, what I foresee RFK doing as far as the vaccine front goes is actually looking through the VAERS database and actually correlating some of that data with the realities that have to do with the vaccines. Like, there was a large amount of reactions being published in the VAERS database that are just being swept under the rug. And the other aspect that RFK is going to be going down is obesity. Obesity is the #1 leading cause of death in America. It's connected to so many different things, so many different cancers, heart disease, which is the leading cause of death in the world. So, I mean, 20% of our American youth, over 20% of our American youth is obese. Our children, which, in my opinion, that's child abuse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, people want to sit here and be like, oh, the government wouldn't poison us. In what world is that a reality? Because throughout history, we can absolutely see that happening in almost every huge empire. It absolutely happens because it's population control. You can sit here and you can call us conspiracy theorists all you want, but in all reality, when you look at the history of mankind, it happens repeatedly.
Well, you and I have talked about this before, where we're the only country aside from maybe one other that advertises our pharmaceuticals.
New Zealand.
Not to mention that if you go outside any other country, a lot of the additives and preservatives that are acceptable in this country are outlawed in everybody else.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, especially when you take a look at, it's just something as simple as Mountain Dew, right? But here in America, the list of ingredients is almost twice. It was almost 3 times longer than that in the UK, right? And half of it you can't even pronounce, let alone know what it is.
If you go after Mountain Dew, my wife might get angry.
I mean, I was addicted to Mountain Dew for a number of years. That's why I got so big at one point. But I mean, these are the things that a Robert Kennedy is wanting to take a look into. He's not looking to just axe everything off the board, right? He wants to look into why we have these rates, why the rates are not only there but increasing on a daily basis, especially within children. We are the #1 when it comes to childhood illness in the world, and it's not even close. The second one in behind us is far behind. When you look at the list of vaccines that children get before the age of 5, it's literally twice as much as the next closest. It's ridiculous the amount of non-trust in the human biology that we have. But we want to boast about how our bodies are great and we can adjust and all these other things. But then there's like, no, we need this, we need that, we need this. It's like, in all reality, our bodies are designed to fight off things. Like,
100%. Well, that's like it's like COVID-19. The big thing was you need to get this vaccine, whether it be Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson, because based on the narrative that's being pushed, natural immunity wasn't good. But even the research produced by Pfizer stated that natural immunity was longer lasting and more durable.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when it comes to like the whole COVID situation, we've been proven right over and over again. I mean, even about the censorship on the social media app. I mean, was it Mark Zuckerberg a few weeks back went on the Joe Rogan podcast literally saying that he was told by the White House, the Biden White House, to censor these things. And they were almost threatened, he said. But come to find out, that wasn't even true. They were paid to do it.
Yep. I mean, just think about it this way. Like, through the Festivus report, we know there was over almost $500,000 spent to censor conservative media. I mean, just imagine how many accounts that you and I lost just because of COVID information that we were putting out there, based on the research that we found.
I mean, this is and like my wife has binders this size, and I'm not joking. One just for COVID is this size, and it's study after study, peer review after peer review, and it's all on the NIH website, which is the funny part.
And speaking of COVID, President Trump is getting rid of federal funding to mandate COVID-19 vaccines in schools.
Absolutely love it, because I don't think that everybody, and that's the funny part, is the people that are pushing that the most are also the same people says my body, my choice.
Mm-hmm.
The irony and the hypocrisy all wrapped up into one around that whole situation is hilarious, because you're sitting here talking about a vaccine that we have no idea what the long-term effects on the human body are, but we're already starting to find out. There are studies that, we've got 5 years into, or 4.5 years into it now, and we're already seeing what mRNA technology does to the human cells, and it's not good.
I mean, if you have any vaccine where you have to put forth $2 million to test it on animals, I think we have an issue. Like through the Festivus report, $2 million was spent to do COVID-19 experiments on cats.
And guess what the results of the yielding of that was? Every single cat died. Every single one of them. And that's what they want to put in your body, though. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is safe. Trust the experts. It's like the experts don't even know what they're doing.
100%. I mean, like, you'll see this. This is the Legislative Lounge Study Group. I was vaccinated for COVID. Nate wasn't. So you'll see what happens.
I mean, who gets sick more often? I mean, we'll take a look at it. Everybody's body affects differently, and that's the thing about it. Is yeah, it might not have affected you, right? Like me and you were vaccinated when we were children, right? But there's a lot of different things that have to go into that. First of all, the ingredients. I'd go find a 1990 insert from the vaccines and look and compare them to the inserts now. I promise you, they're different. And not only are the ingredients different, the level of the ingredient itself is much higher. And that's what we want to look into, especially in our food, right? We're sitting over here having issues with the obesity, heart disease, cancer, all of these things, and it's like they have to have a connection with the food we're eating.
100%. And I talk about the simple things you could do just to get healthier. And a simple thing you could do, if for those of you that are listening, is stay out of the center of the grocery store. Stick to the outer aisles.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, try and eat as raw food as you can. Not cooked raw. I'm just saying raw, like real food. You know what I mean? That's what I mean by raw. Like actual meat, actual eggs, not something in a box or prepackaged. If you find it in the frozen food aisle, put it back. But, I mean, going along the lines, though, with those that were confirmed over the last week, one of the ones that I'm looking forward the most to is also Tulsi Gabbard was confirmed, both by a 52-48 vote, which is exactly what I predicted to happen. But who actually voted for them was a little little intriguing. I thought Mitch McConnell would fold and get in line, right? However, he voted against both of them, so I was a little shocked. But even more so, Susan Collins out of Maine and then Miss Murkowski out of Alaska were two individuals that actually voted for them. And they are individuals, just to put this in perspective, Senator Murkowski out of Alaska was an individual that's literally on record saying, I don't even label myself a Republican.
Yeah, I don't know who is voting for Mitch McConnell, but if you think that he is alive enough to vote, you're severely mistaken.
It's pretty bad when you make Joe Biden look competent.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. And then not even it seems like whatever Mitch McConnell's got is becoming contagious because you got other House of Representatives just completely freezing on the Senate floor or on the House floor when giving a speech. The gentleman's name evades me right now, but I've got video of it on my Instagram and then also my TikTok, and I'm like, why are we? And this is my issue, okay? I know we got some older individuals that listen to us, and I appreciate all the support. However, when we're out here looking at 70, 80-year-old individuals that are in Congress, it's time to hang it up. Like, stop voting for these individuals because, I mean, first of all, they should be just in retirement, honestly. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I'm just saying, like, when you hit 70, 80 years old, like, you should be enjoying life, not worrying about what's going on in Congress. But at the same time, you also see people like Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and I mean, even at times, like people like Lindsey Graham just completely just frozen or falling and hurting themselves. And it's just like, at what point does it become elderly abuse?
Well, if you're not able to conduct yourself like Senator John Kennedy out of Louisiana, like, I don't want you in Congress. Like, that man is so full of energy. If you're not able to function like Donald Trump, that man's around the same age. And okay, there are some young people that can't, function like Donald Trump. Dude runs off of Milky Way's Diet Coke and cheeseburgers. I don't know how he does it, but he's.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Senator Kennedy out of Louisiana, he's a 73-year-old just rock star, honestly. It astounds me. I'm shocked by how quick he is with his quips and his comebacks when he's pressed on the House floor Senate floor. It's funny to see the vast difference between them because then they'll use people like Senator Kennedy to justify the individuals like Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell and all these other people that are literally falling apart in front of us. But it comes to a point of we need to start getting a younger generation of individuals that are, strong and not only in health but mental capacity and understanding that, these issues that we have in our country right now are perpetuated from people like Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham and the, Ralph Naders and all of the Chuck Schumers, the individuals that have been in Congress for forever, right? The reason why our country is in such a desperate way when it comes to our national debt is because we keep voting for the same dinosaurs. And that's how I'm going to reference them. Because they're the individuals that keep continuously doing these continuing resolutions rather than their actual job, which is putting forth a balanced budget. Most Americans don't know that Congress has not put forth a balanced budget since 2001.
Yeah, but, speaking of that, the House Republicans did put forth a budget resolution, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, absolutely. They did it on Wednesday. So, yeah, we definitely want to get into that because there's a little bit of controversy around it because it's being met by huge challenges from the Democrats for whatever reason because it honestly, it hasn't even been fully prepared because they have to go through the actual numbers and allocations through the committee chairs and the committee itself. But, I mean, when you take a look at it, it's already the promises made by Donald Trump in regards to slashing federal funding for nonsensical payment. Like, when we take a look at it, it actually breaks out telling different committees like the Committee of Agriculture that they need to reduce their deficit, their funding by $230 billion. You have the Committee of Education and Workforce that needs to reduce theirs by $330 billion. You have the Committee of Energy and Commerce they are requesting to reduce theirs by almost $900 billion. So you're starting to see all of what the Festivus report and Doge have been finding coming to light. Because in all reality, people are sitting here blaming Donald Trump for this and that when it comes to slashing funds. Honestly, no, the president doesn't do that. It's Congress. What's happening is Doge and people like, Rand Paul are suggesting this to Trump, and Trump's like getting back with the House of Representatives. Hey, we need to get rid of this. This is what's going to help us.
100%. And, the big narrative on this budget resolution is that House Republicans and Donald Trump are slashing Medicare and Medicaid funding. But when you go to the House resolution, you can Control F, which you'll be able to search words. If you search Medicaid, it's nowhere found in the document. If you search Medicare, it's found in one place, and that is in the table of contents.
Yeah, that's just it's just the breakdown where it's blank. It literally just is it's part of the budget balance, right? They still, like I said at the beginning, they have to still go and allot the amounts to each individual department, right? And all it is it's blank. But yet there's being this notion perpetuated by social media, and honestly, I'm seeing a lot of congressional members talk about it on Twitter and whatnot. And it's just, how are you able to blatantly lie to the American people on such a public platform and not be reprimanded for it? Because in this budgetary resolution, as it's worded, it doesn't talk about eliminating any federal aid when it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security like they claim it does.
Yeah, this is exactly what me and Nate do in regards to legislation. We actually comb through it. We look at what the issues are being brought up on either side, because both sides might bring up, things that, people want to hear, people want to learn about. And when it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, that's a very important topic, especially when it comes to our health. And so me and Nate looked into it and then found out, oh, look, it hasn't even gone through Medicare and Medicaid yet. They're still building it.
Right. I mean, when it comes to like the federal funding freeze, that's where a lot of people were afraid of. They didn't freeze the areas that, people are vital, like food stamps, Medicare, Medicaid, all this other stuff. And that's the part that I don't understand. Is like why they're acting like he froze these things. No, he froze the expenditures that were just nonsensical that we've been all seeing in these reports that are coming out. And honestly, looking at this budget report, I've got it up right here next to me. It's 45 pages. But the problem is that, or not the problem, the thing is like people don't want to go read it, but there's only 10 pages of reading on it. Because the first 30 pages is just the budgetary report that hasn't been filled out yet.
Yep.
So if you're this doomsday person saying, oh, Trump's trying to get rid of this, just go read it.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 pages long, and it's not even like huge pages. Like there's like 20 lines that are like this big on a page that's this wide. It's crazy to see people just freaking out in mass hysteria saying Donald Trump's trying to do these unilateral moves, which he can't do without the but yet you see judges out here freaking out about, oh, he's trying to evade the Constitution and by executive order, even though Article 2 of the Constitution give him explicit rights to write executive orders. Now, whether or not they become law is up to Congress.
Yes. Well, there was that gentleman that we were talking to yesterday, and he said Donald Trump can write laws, and then we asked him, what does the executive branch do? And he, please, if you're out there, go to Barnes & Noble, spend $4.92, and everybody should buy a United States Constitution. Oh. Everybody should be knowledgeable of how our government is formed and what their roles and responsibilities are. Or you can just listen to us and we'll tell you.
I mean, it's just the weirdest thing to see how many people apparently failed high school civics just because I've had repeated conversations with individuals that sit here and tell me until they're blue in the face that the judicial system, or the Supreme Court specifically, and the executive branch, the president, passes laws. Like they're the ones that create. And I'm not joking. I've had people say that they create laws. And I'm sitting there and I just floored with the level of incompetence when it comes to how our country works. But yet these individuals want to tell us who and how to vote.
There are individuals in Congress that I fear have never read the Constitution.
Oh, Lord.
Like judges that don't understand the Constitution. And, a lot of these judges are going outside of their judicial purview. And it's blatant. And that's why you're seeing impeachment charges being brought up, which I know you were going to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a couple judges. I believe one is out of New York, and another one is out of Virginia, I believe. I might be incorrect on the second one. But Judge John McConnell Jr. and Judge Paul Maver. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. But, yeah, these are two judges that have done the federal blocks on. One was for the birthright citizenship, and then the other one was for the federal funding freeze. But the problem is that when they cite what their jurisdiction is, they can't elaborate how he's violating the Constitution by doing so. That's the caveat to all of this. So Republicans have actually they were talking about it yesterday, so they may do it today on Monday. But they were talking about introducing, or no, not talking about. They're doing it. They're drafting it, is how it's worded. They're drafting articles of impeachment to remove this. Now, me personally, I knew that you could do this, but I've never heard of it before. So this is really, I mean, I don't know if it's even been done before, honestly. I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, you'll do that through, you could do that through ethical reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And you could do the same thing with members of Congress.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which I think should be done. I think, especially after Doge gets through the rest of the 99% of the budget, there should be impeachments of many members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, in the center of the aisle, and we should clean house.
But I mean, it's not even that. You got to go a little bit further. But I'll round back to the judges here. But just a point of education for people is like we have to educate people on who they're voting for, because the thing is a lot of people just vote because they have their team blue or team red, and not understanding whether or not they're actually good for their position. That's my issue. You got people out here voting from an ignorant understanding of how things work, first of all, and then not even looking into what they're doing. And you can get into things like Kamala Harris, right? She was promising things that she had no control over, and people were just eating it up. It's like, you do understand the president cannot do that, right?
They didn't understand when we found that out rather quickly just last year.
Or they're promising things that are already in place. Like she was talking about the $25,000 home subsidy loans or whatever. First of all, you can't do that as president, right? It's got to go through Congress, which it'll never pass. But two, we already have things like that. There's already programs that provide first-time home buyers down payments.
Yeah, and getting back to those judges that are being possibly being impeached, there are also possible charges being brought up against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh yeah, that's not a good look for her. So not the rumor, but it's been confirmed that AOC is out here aiding and abetting illegal immigrants in violation of 8 U.S.C. 1325, which is the illegal crossing law here in America. She has a platform on the internet instructing illegal immigrants how to evade ICE and how to evade apprehension. That's illegal. That is a federal crime.
Well, I've said it plenty of times. AOC's not the smartest. I mean, when she goes off script, you find out some rather interesting things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you got people like Tom Homan conversing with the DOJ and other aspects of law enforcement to file charges against a sitting member of Congress.
I honestly can't wait. I look forward to that, and it just shows you like how disconnected from reality and how unintelligent a lot of Democrats are. Like, to switch over to Senate Bill 2319 out of Mississippi, and they'll Now, I've tried to find the bill number coming out of Ohio, but they're the same bill. I cannot, for the sake of this show, say the title of the act. So if you want to look it up, it is Senate Bill 2319.
Right.
has to do with charging an individual who discharges you charge a male with the crime of discharging genetic material without the intention to fertilize an embryo. And if you're catching the word choices, yeah, it says embryo.
Yeah, we're trying to make sure that we're censoring our language, but when it comes to relations between man and woman, the state of Mississippi Democrats, along with Ohio Democrats, have introduced a bill that are going to charge men who interact with a woman in a loving manner, is how we'll say it, and discharge without the intent of procreation.
But I want to make sure people understand that in the bill it says discharge genetic material without the intent to fertilize an embryo. Now, this very line is impossible because you cannot fertilize an embryo because an embryo has already been fertilized. Now, where they messed up, instead of saying embryo, they should have said egg because you can only fertilize an egg.
Right. I mean, this just shows the further incompetence of people that are in leadership and quote unquote at every level. Because honestly, go ahead, Mike.
The person that co-wrote this was an OBGYN.
Oh, Lord. Help us, God. But this is what we're dealing with and that's why I restated what Mike had said about the bill itself, because it's just, when he told me this, because he was the one that brought it to my attention, I'm like, say that again? Because I was just like, first of all, that is the most ridiculous bill I've ever heard. It's almost as bad as Ohio senator, a Democrat senator in Ohio, because I am a Michigan fan, putting forth legislation in regards to planting the flag in the middle of a football field of your opposing opponent and making it a felony. Like, these are the level of just nonsense that are being introduced by individuals that are supposed to be our leaders. And then you get into the wording, like Mike says. It's like anybody that's taken a basic biology class, like they understand an embryo is already a fertilized egg. So how it can't fertilize again. If it does, it ceases to be life.
Like I said, they're disconnected from intelligence. And, I found it interesting that a couple days ago, there's an individual that provided testimony as far as the government's. He's the director of government affairs on improper payments, waste, and fraud. Now, this gentleman provided testimony and stated that Doge basically has no evidence because he has not seen any improper payments, waste, or fraud. And I find the word choices interesting. I'm not poking fun at this individual, but I find it interesting that this person has never seen it because this person, Mr. Dylan Hedler Gaudette, is visually impaired. He's blind. So it would make sense that he has not seen it.
I believe him, Judge. I believe him.
So I 100% agree that he has not seen the improper payments, waste, and fraud.
It just further shows, like, why? First of all, why are you bringing an individual that's supposed to be one of your lead witnesses in regards to your cases about against Doge and what they're finding, and saying he's never seen this, and the man can't see? Like, your word choicing and your list of individuals that you're bringing forth need to be ironclad if you're going to be trying to say that they're improperly accessing and claiming these information as being, fraudulent by our government. You can't have somebody that literally can't see any of the information himself. It's just the wildest thing to see these individuals out here trying to make these ridiculous claims against something that everybody in America honestly wants. I mean, if you don't want our government to be audited, I have several questions for you. But the fact that you have individuals coming to the congressional meetings and testifying in front of them regarding information that he's never physically seen himself, and everything would have to be written out in Braille or whatnot, but honestly, he doesn't know if it's even correct or not because he can't see it. And I'm like I say, I'm not being I'm not trying to insult him in any way because that's not what we do. But you can't use that as your lead witness.
I find it incredibly disparaging because it's already easy to pull the wool, or cast an illusion, so to speak, keep things in the dark in front of the American people. And then how are we supposed to know that Mr. Hedler, Gaudet, is getting all the information, transmitted to him in a form that he could read?
Right.
Like, that would be a lot of information if all of it had to be transmitted into Braille or some type of auditory system. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot to put on one individual.
And even so, it's like you can't even confirm whether or not it's real or not. Like, you would have to have a third party verify that information that's being transmitted into Braille, so that way this individual can read it, is even accurate. So, and there's already a deep distrust, and regardless of what your political party is, there's a severe distrust of the American people in our politics already, and they're doing ridiculous stunts like this. It makes us question you even more with the competency of being able to actually run our government.
We were talking a little bit about fraud, waste, and abuse, and I just kind of want to bring this up real quick. As far as saving money, President Trump gave direction that we're not going to be making pennies anymore. For those of you that do not know, the penny is worth 1 cent, but it costs 3.69 cents to make 1 penny. So almost 4 cents to make 1 penny. And he did away with that. So imagine how much that's going to save us. That's going to save us quite a bit.
With all the savings, see, that's the understanding is a lot of people are looking at this, kind of rounding that back into the budget conversation as well. A lot of people brought up the fact that, this budget resolution is also increasing the national debt ceiling by $4.5 trillion. It's like, yeah, but you obviously don't understand what that means. Because it doesn't allow a lot for new expenditures. It allots for the loans that we are already behind on, right? So if you default on your bills, you can't make any adjustments. So what it does is it allows us to borrow money in the advanced time, so that way we can also simultaneously rid ourselves of all the nonsensical spending that's going on, because that's how it works, right? Money in versus money out. If we're having more money go out than come in, we'll never get ahead.
And, they're complaining about the, increasing the national debt by $2 trillion, you said?
4.5.
Oh, 4.5. Well, half of that is just in the Precipice report.
Right. That's what
for those that weren't here on last Saturday, we have, let's see, something fun. $1.5 million spent to torture kittens by spinning them so we could study motion sickness. $1.5 million, okay? We had $2 million spent on border security in Paraguay, which is in South America. Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier, $2.2 million spent on COVID experiments on cats. $3 million spent on girl-centered climate action for climate change in Brazil. Almost $5 million spent on Ukrainian influencers. Mm-hmm. $7 million spent on magic-related projects like David Blaine. Like, don't tell me you're concerned with the debt when you're adding to it for garbage stuff like that.
This report goes into much more detail. The Congressional Budget Office predicts that we will add an average of $2.1 trillion in debt annually for the next decade. So according to July House Budget Committee, the U.S. government, now this is breaking down the whopping number of, in the Festivus report itself, the total that was found is $8,329,226.12. That is over $1 trillion just on this one report. And to put this in perspective for you guys, The committee that I was just talking about, the House Budget Committee, broke this down to make it understandable for you guys. It is $6.4 billion of debt every day that the U.S. would have to borrow. And then in the next 10 years, borrowing over $268 million every hour, $4.5 million every minute, and $74,401 every second. That's just this one, every second. Think of this, $74,000 every second. Boom, boom, boom. Right there is almost nearly $200,000 that we just had to borrow against to make sure that we can pay for all this nonsense in this report.
Mm-hmm.
This is what is going to help us eliminate debt, because you can't default on your loans and then just continuous the status quo. You have to raise the debt ceiling so that way, first of all, we don't default, and then we have simultaneously you have to get rid of the extra expenditures. That's what these things are. That's what Doge is doing. That's what Donald Trump is looking into. Now it's up to Congress to do their job and set forth, legislation that's going to actually help the American people, rather than doing these continuing resolutions for the last 20-something years since 2001. It's time Congress starts doing their job.
So today was kind of switch the topic a little bit, but today is an important day, especially when it comes to the war between Israel and Gaza, or Palestine, however what you want to phrase it. Trump made it incredibly clear that all the hostages were to be returned by noon. I want to say noon Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
So more to follow on that. But as far as there's always going to be a lot of controversy around this conflict. But Jordan actually assured, the king of Jordan actually assured President Trump that they're going to be taking in 3,000 children to provide medical care for them. For those of you that were, non-believers as far as, would Jordan let Palestinians in? Well, Jordan's letting Palestinian children in so they can receive medical care.
Right.
This is a great thing. And so Trump's been in office, 25 days?
Yeah, that sounds right.
So he has brought back 11 hostages. And that is, that includes those that were held in Gaza, and then 2 that were detained, one in Russia and one in Belarus.
Right. And there was, the one in Russia was a teacher. Yeah, I saw that on the news where he went to the White House and was talking about it.
Yeah, he didn't have to pull a Biden and release the merchant of death.
Right. See, we're able to negotiate without letting terrorists go free, guys. It just takes a strong-willed individual that knows what he's doing to do so.
And, since this is day 25, and we're having hostages released all over the world. We have the ceasefire in Gaza and Israel. We have talks of peace going on between Ukraine and Russia, between Zelensky and Putin.
Right. And that just, that started this week, so that's great news. There's a lot of people, that's a big...
days.
Say what?
25 days. Imagine what the end of his term is going to be.
Right. And I know a lot of people are being like sticklers. I was like, I'm going to have that war ended in 24 hours. Like, Donald Trump does talk a little out of his behind at times. And we all know that. That's just who he is, right? Now, whether or not his claim about whether or not that war between Russia and Ukraine would have started, if he was president, I absolutely believe the fact that it would have never started. There was a lot of dominoes that Joe Biden put into place by lifting the sanctions and everything, which even Zelensky himself warned him not to do, which allowed Russia the gall to step up and go into Ukraine. Now, whether or not you believe, the mainstream story or the conspiracies about why Russia, it's irrelevant. But in all reality, I definitely believe it. But the thing is every time the United States is ran by somebody like Donald Trump Ronald Reagan, we are a force, and people understand that, and they come to heel just like Russia. I think Donald Trump actually has it's the first time since Ronald Reagan, he has plans to actually go to Russia and talk with Vladimir Putin. It's the first time since Ronald Reagan. Just like...
Well, when it comes to presidents like Donald Trump, I think outside, you could probably compare him to Ronald Reagan and then JFK. And you know what they did to JFK.
Right. And
there's a lot of things being brought up about last July as far as Donald Trump's assassination. And I'm not going to get into that until I can confirm.
Ooh.
By the way, I'm not going to spread misinformation.
Right.
There's a lot to unpack on that one.
And it's definitely going to be unpacked here very shortly, because the final steps of Kash Patel has cleared the cloture vote, and it'll be, I believe, Monday or Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time that they'll actually be doing the final vote. And again, I believe he'll probably get 52 votes as well.
Yeah, it'll be, 52-48?
Yeah, I could see Murkowski voting against Kash, though. But in all reality, he's going to get into office. I'm not worried about that. But the thing is when he gets into the FBI, everything is going to hit the fan.
Yeah, and there's already several people, several hundred FBI agents that are fearing losing their job. Rightfully so, because they have, went against their oath, and,
Kash Patel has already said day one, all of the JFK, all of the Epstein list, all of that, day one, he said. So I'm going to hold him accountable to that, first of all, and so should you. I mean, even if you're in support of him, hold them accountable. I'm going to hold up Donald Trump accountable. If I don't start seeing changes in regards to like pricing and gas and all that by the end of summer, then yeah, I'm going to start saying something, because I'm going to give. I want to give at least 6 months or so for legislation to really, or effects of trade deals and what he's been doing with the executive orders to take effect. So it's going to take some time because of the logistics of everything, but definitely hold him accountable, and we should as well.
Yeah, I foresee us to start feeling the economical change around July, or August. So I think that's feasible. I mean, I know last Saturday we talked a little bit we got a little bit into the birthright citizenship, which now there are 4 states going against Donald Trump's executive order regarding birthright citizenship and mandating that there needs to be at least one United States citizen parent. Washington, Maryland, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, all these judges say that, it's completely unconstitutional, this executive order, that children of illegal aliens are, if they're born on United States soil, which the legal principle of that is just solely of the soil, that they are automatic United States citizens, which I have my own opinion on.
Right.
Because if you're a foreign diplomat, by law, by the Supreme Court precedent, established in U.S. v. Kim Wong-Ark, if you're a foreign diplomat and you are pregnant and you have a child on United States soil, that child is not a United States citizen, because you do not fall under the jurisdiction of the United States. And I see that correlating very well with illegal aliens, because they are not under the jurisdiction of the United States. Mm-hmm. They fall under a little bit of the legal pretenses based on deportation and whatnot, but they're still technical citizens of the country where they resided in.
Right. And I mean, there's the other court case as well. You're better with the names of them. Talking about federal citizenship, which there is none. It has to have, and Kim Wong-Ark was talking about, permanent domicile in the state in which they are, right? So in that aspect, it's talking about that they are a permanent resident of that state. Now, the other court case was an individual trying to fight for federal citizenship, which has never existed. So based off of both of them, that doesn't exist for these individuals, because, first of all, illegal aliens don't have permanent residence here. They can't in any state. And there's no such thing as a federal citizen. So this whole 14th Amendment garbage that they're trying to push doesn't apply. There's already 2 cases on it. And that's when it gets to the Supreme Court, that's what's going to be argued. And that's what's going to uphold the EO from Donald Trump.
100%. So the case regarding federal citizenship was Dred Scott v. Sanford. And he unfortunately lost that case because of bad precedent, and which was federal citizenship, which you can read. Federal citizenship does not exist. The second case was in 1893, I believe, with U.S. v. Kim Wong-Ark. It had to do with a child of Chinese nationals, but they were here legally and had established permanent domicile. These are key legal principles that everybody should take into consideration. Now, somebody that might be trying to act like a smarty pants might try to bring up Plyer v. Doe, but that has nothing to do with birthright citizenship. That has to do with educational opportunities for children of illegal aliens. So don't get them twisted. There's only been 2 cases regarding birthright citizenship and no clarification regarding illegal aliens.
Right. I mean, this has been a great conversation, and we've got plenty others. So for next show, it's going to have a lot of information. And we're going to get a little bit more specific into Texas and Arizona in regards to something like Ron DeSantis actually is calling for the abolishment of property tax in the state of Florida. So we're going to go into that a little bit next show, along with some of the things that are going on here in Texas. We want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's been a phenomenal conversation. And obviously, follow us and Radiodabang on all social media platforms. The Legislative Lounge, we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, and we have a show with me and Mike on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. So definitely tune in, follow us, follow Radiodabang on Facebook and other platforms.